All right, good morning, people of YouTube. So we are back again today with another deck profile. This time we have the highly anticipated blue deck of Bt10 Blue Flare. So this deck plays similarly to Crossheart because you have a lot of Digicross that you're rushing in with, but it also has like a stun aspect as well. People tend to lean one way or the other or do like a mix of both. Some people mix this with Blue Hybrid and make it like a pure control deck. Um, and more my play style is mixing this with some X-Antibody cards to give this highly aggressive feel and be able to take security and the game very quickly, but also be able to stun anybody that your opponent throws at you. So we're going to go into one of the basic combos. So let's say you start the game and you're going first, right? You're going to evolve a rookie in the raising area. And then the optimal turn one play is to do something to get Kiriha in play. So either the memory boost or the male Birdmon or just playing Kiriha, right? Let's just say we play the male Birdmon. We'll put our opponent to 5 memory and play the Kiriha. Get a rookie in play, get a male Birdmon. It's pretty nice, right? So then they're going to do something with their turn. Chances are they won't be at 2 Digimon in play, but they're going to pass you with some amount of memory. You're going to go up to 3. You're going to promote this rookie. It could be anything. You swing one check. Awesome. Cool. You swing another check with the male Birdramon. Let's say this dies. This will get saved under Kiriha, right? So now you're at your 3 memory. You can tap Kiriha to do your Digicross play, and we are going to get this Greymon, this male Birdramon, and we are going to go into the main card of this deck, which is the MetalGreymon. So when you Digicross, this is a 3-cost to hard play. This stack gains Rush. Since we use the red Greymon, it has security attack +1, and if my opponent doesn't have 2 Digimon and play the male Birdramon, does nothing, right? So then, what we do from there is we equip the X-Antibody to it. This goes right under here. And now we swing, and this is going to evolve into MetalGreymon X. But because we get to decide when attacking effect, if they did have 2 Digimon in play, we can use the male Birdramon to stun something first before we evolve. If this Greymon was instead the Blue Flare Greymon, we can choose to unsuspend first, and then it's when attacking in Digivolve. So if we did it this way, go into the MetalGreymon X. Let's say we had the blue one under. This is now checking 2 checks, and then it unsuspended, so it can swing and check another 2 checks. Turn 1, if they don't have the Digimon in play, even still, this is swinging for 3 checks at 11,000. And with the male Birdramon, with the Vmon, that's all 5 of their security, and it's only your second turn. So this deck has access to highly aggressive plays. It has highly defensive plays because the MetalGreymon gets to stun a whole bunch. Let's say you built a stack like this, and you stun 2 bodies, and then you swung for a couple securities. You can use the X-Antibody to Digivolve this into Magnamon X as well. So this evolves on any blue or yellow level 5 for just 3 memory. And in order to get the redirection effect that this card has, you either need to have an armor form card in your sources, which no blue flare card has, or you need X-Antibody. So by having the X-Antibody in the stack, this is now swinging for 2 checks. We're passing our turn, giving our opponent 3 memory. We stunned 2 bodies off the MetalGreymon, possibly another one off the male Birdramon, and now whatever isn't stunned has to get through Magnamon X. And if they want to delete the Magnamon X, this can go to the top of your security, and then they have to get through the MetalGreymon, which on your turn can unsuspend, and then swing, and then possibly go into, the MetalGreymon X. So this is a deck that has lots of lines of play. All the cards in it do something. And without further ado, let's go ahead and show you what those cards are. Alright, moving on to the deck profile side of things. For my egg, I got 4 copies of Upa. You can play a 5th egg. The new one from Bt10 is alright. The Kiaromon from Bt6 is alright. The Bukamon that trashes a source whenever you swing, that's alright. But Upa's really good, so I just play 4 of that. For the rookies, I got 4 copies of the Jamming Vmon, 4 copies of the Gaussmon from Bt10. This card's really nice. When it dies, you play a level 4 blue flare from your hand. Not level 4 blue, not level 4 or lower, specifically a level 4. So that's kind of cool. It helps you maintain board presence. And it's a blue flare card, so it's searchable. We got 4 copies of Madoki Beta, closing out the blue level 3 lineup. Whenever we get the security Bluecomon, that's pretty much an automatic inclusion in this deck. I don't know exactly how many I'm going to play, but I know my rookie count will probably increase to be more than 12 when that happens, because this deck really wants to see rookies early. It really wants to be promoting every turn it can and just getting chip damage, because this is through and through a very aggressive deck, and you need to be playing it as such if you want to find success with it. We got 4 copies of the Greymon moving into the level 4s. This is one of our main searchers, one of our main Digicross materials, and its inheritable is just nuts, letting you unsuspend your MetalGreymon if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon, which is cool. We got 4 copies of Male Bergermon. This card is another Digicross component. It lets us stun some things. And if we don't have a Kiriha in play, we get to play one whenever we play this card. So it's a good turn 1 open as well. This and like the Blaze Memory Boost are some of the best cards you can see in your opening hand. Next, we got 3 copies of Decadramon. So this card is really freaking good. I just don't think 4 is the way to go unless you're playing max copies of Decagreymon. If you're playing Decagreymon at like more than 3 copies, then you should just play this card at 4. Because this card is necessary for the Decagreymon plays. This card lets you draw a bunch of cards. It's an insane version of Pot of Greed, but it's 5 cost to hard play. So the best way you can get this into play is off of Gaussmon, and that's just not super consistent all the time. But whenever it happens, it is very powerful. And so you usually want to have this card in your hand, just chilling for whenever you do go into the Decker Gray combo. So I think 3 is fine. Closing off level 4s, I got 1 copy of Kuma. Hybrid for game is good, but if we need to go into it earlier, this card strips a source. And then I have 1 copy of the starter deck Greymon, just as a 5th copy of this Greymon, basically, to give us an extra card to Digicross with. People play this at 1 or 2. I think either of those ratios are correct. If I wasn't playing so many X-Antibody cards, I would bump this up, probably. And then the last level 4 I'm playing in the list is the Spicy Tech. I got a single copy of Magnamon. This card is great on offense and defense. It evolves over any blue rookie for just 4 memory, so you can go off the Madoki Beta or the Gaussmon if one of them lives whenever it swings security and get an extra check that way. It also goes off the Vmon for just 3, which is nuts, and the Vmon's living anyway because it has jamming. But also we do play Magna X in the list, so this gives us a way to cheat into it. And so it does have the extra added synergy there. So I do like the 1 copy. It has been putting in a lot of work. For the level 5s, we got 4 copies of MetalGreymon. It's the main card of the deck. Waiting on some of mine to come in the mail. But in my playtesting with this deck, this has been the make or break point. If you don't see this card, you kind of lose, which is why all of the cards in the deck are kind of focused on grabbing it. Next, for the other Blue Flare level 5, we got 2 copies of Decagreymon. This card is really good in some matchups, and it feels pretty useless in others. But this card being able to stun something is really good. Being able to put this on top of MetalGreymon and then having a way to kind of protect it, because if they want to get through it, they have to go through this, and then this will armor purge down. This card can also shove sources under it from your hand when digivolving, just as like an added bonus. So if you didn't have like a Greymon in your sources, you can just kind of like shove that under. Or let's say you digicrossed with MetalGreymon with the Greymon and the male Bergermon, and you have this dude in play with both those sources. You can swing, unsuspend, swing again, and then to end your turn, you can Digivolve in the Decker Greymon. Or let's say you didn't have this and you had the red one. On your next turn, you can have both of these Greymons in your sources and be able to get 2 swings at 2 security, which is pretty cool. It's kind of niche, but this card does open up access for a lot of really cool plays. So I think it is worth including in the deck of at least 2 copies. And, it being a blue flare card is also important, just so that you're playing enough cards that you trigger both effects of Blazing Memory Boost. So for the last level 5 of the deck, I'm playing 2 copies of MetalGreymon X-Antibody. This card goes on top of MetalGreymon for that combo I described earlier, and that's it. There's no other real way to go into this card, I guess, aside from evolving on top of the Greymon, but you're never going to do that. And then the last Digimon on the list is the single copy of Magnamon X. Because this card needs X-Antibody in its sources in order to function, I don't want to play this card at more than 2. One's been fine. If the format dictates it, I will bump this card up, though. It's a card that I could easily see myself playing more copies of. Going on to the Tamers. I got 4 copies of Kiriha. You need to see this card or you lose. Same with MetalGreymon. And the reason you want to play 4 is because, if you see it off of Blazing Memory Boost, you get to play it for free. And if you see it in your opening hand with Male Bergermon, you get to play it for free. So you need to see one of this card like turn 1, or you're going to be off to kind of a slow start, like turn 2 at the latest. But this deck has a lot of ways to just find cards, so usually getting into this card isn't an issue. We have 2 copies of Sorojo. This card is really good, this format. Being able to strip extra sources, like let's say you promote the rookie, you're set to 3 memory, and then you swing with that rookie. You can strip 2 sources off the Sorojo, get something in the MetalGreymon threshold for the stun effect, which is pretty neat. But I don't think it's as good as a lot of the players this format are saying it is. It is a good Tamer, don't get me wrong, but people are saying it's like absolutely cracked. And I think the Tamer that people are sleeping on instead is the Matt and Sora. So this is a deck that adds a bunch of cards to its hand off of the Blazing Memory Boost, off of your draw effects. So if you have 8 or more cards in your hand at the start of your turn, you gain a memory. Same if your opponent has 8 or more cards. So you can gain 2 memories off of this if they're playing any deck with a decent hand size, which is most Tier 1 decks. And if you unsuspend a Digimon during your turn, doesn't have to be in the main phase. It could be during your unsuspend phase. Let's say you're jamming Vmon lived through their turn after doing its obligatory security check. And they put out like a Solarmon to try to stop you. Your Vmon unsuspends, Matt and Sora triggers, the Solarmon just goes straight back to their hand. And now you can Digicross. So this card acts as a Forbidden Trident that's harder to remove. And I really like this card. If you can get like this plus a Kiriha plus a Sorojo, you're starting your turn with absurd amounts of memory, and you can just kind of win the game out of nowhere at any point. Closing out the deck with the options, we got 4 copies of Blazing Memory Boost. I think this is one of the stupidest memory boosts ever printed, and probably one of the stupidest memory boosts that will ever be printed for a while. Playing less than 4 of this in a blue flare deck is kind of a mistake because of how absurd it is. We have 2 copies of X-Antibody. This card isn't entirely necessary, but it does make your combo a little bit better whenever you're digivolving off of X-Antibody with this Greymon in its sources, because then you can get the effect to Digivolve after you've activated this, and then get 2 swings as your big X-Antibody card, as opposed to swinging as just the MetalGreymon, which is a little bit better. The MetalGreymon X checks an extra security is a lot bigger, and the Magnamon X, if it dies, it goes back to your security, so no losses there. So, plus this has the added effect of being a good security bomb, so I do like this card. I wouldn't play any more than this. And I'd even consider bumping this down to play more room, or to increase the count of like Matt Sora, maybe add Rookie, maybe add another Casitas Breath, because I'm only playing 2 of this card right now, and this card feels absolutely mandatory for matchups like Alphamon and Grandis Kuwaka. Um, so I think maybe Casitas is the bump up, but again, we have 2 Casitas in the list. It's mandatory for your big tower decks, the decks that you see rolling over from BT9. Um, it's a good card, and I think 3 is the magic number in this deck. I have 1 copy of Forbidden Trident. This card acts as like the Matt and Sora, where you get to bounce cards like Solarmon, cards like Terriermon, and things of that nature. And the last card in the deck is the single copy of Ice Wall. No Hammer Sparks. This deck legitimately does not have room. If you can find room, tell me where you see it, because I don't see it. But that's all I gotta say about the deck. It's a fun deck that can go a lot of different directions. You can tailor it with more Magnamon X to make it more defensive. You can also make it more defensive by just playing more of this Decker Greymon. You can make it more offensive by adding more copies of this Greymon, more rookies, making it kind of like a rookie spam deck. There are a lot of different routes you can go with this. This is actually a pretty flexible deck and is actually in a pretty decent place this meta. I didn't think it was going to do as well as it has been, but people have been topping store championships. People have been topping regionals with this deck. And this deck has definitely proved that it can exist at the top tables with the big boys like Alphamon and Crossheart. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and we will see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.